Nobody loves me. I'm only here to produce heirs. Diana said this to her therapist, crying, broken. The therapy room was Diana's only safe space, the only place she could be honest, the only place she could say things she couldn't say anywhere else. Behind closed doors, away from cameras and royal protocol, Diana told the truth about Charles, about Camilla, about the bulimia, about wanting to die. This is what Diana said when nobody else was listening. The decision to get help. Early 1980s, Diana was drowning, married less than 2 years, already miserable. Charles was cold, Camilla was always there. The palace was suffocating. Diana developed bulimia. She was throwing up 4 times a day, losing weight rapidly. Nobody seemed to notice or care. She had panic attacks, crying spells that lasted hours, dark thoughts she couldn't shake. One night, Diana stood at the top of the stairs at Sandringham. She thought about jumping, about ending it all. She didn't jump, but the thought terrified her. Diana knew she needed help, professional help. But asking for therapy in the royal family, that was admitting weakness. That was breaking protocol. That was making a fuss. Diana didn't care anymore. She was dying inside. She needed someone to talk to. Someone suggested Dr. Alan McGlashan, a Jungian analyst. Elderly, wise, discreet. Diana called him. They arranged a session, secret, private. Nobody could know. The first session. Diana arrived at Dr. McGlashan's office, nervous, scared, but also relieved. This was her secret, her safe space. For 1 hour, she could stop pretending. She sat down. Dr. McGlashan asked gentle questions. Diana started talking and couldn't stop. Everything poured out. Years of pain, loneliness, betrayal, fear. Charles didn't love her. He never had. It was always Camilla. The palace treated her like a breeding machine. Produce heirs, smile, stay quiet. Nobody cared about Diana's feelings. Nobody asked if she was okay. Diana cried through most of that first session. Dr. McGlashan listened, didn't judge, didn't tell her to be strong or pull herself together. He just listened. And for Diana, that was everything. What Diana talked about. Over months and years of therapy, Diana opened up about the deepest wounds. Charles and Camilla, this was the central pain. Diana told her therapist everything, how Charles had Camilla's photo in his diary on their honeymoon, how he wore cufflinks with intertwined C's, how he took phone calls from Camilla and left the room. Diana described feeling like the other woman in her own marriage. She was the wife, but Camilla had Charles's heart. He looks at her the way he never looked at me, Diana told her therapist. The bulimia. Diana explained how it started. The stress, the feeling of having no control. Food became the one thing she could control. She described the cycle: eating, guilt, purging, relief, then shame, then doing it again. Diana knew it was destroying her body, but she couldn't stop. The bulimia was her way of coping with unbearable pain. Childhood trauma. Diana talked about being 6 years old when her mother left, coming home from school to find her mother gone. Nobody explained. Nobody comforted. Diana blamed herself. If she'd been better, maybe her mother would have stayed. That abandonment wound never healed. It shaped everything. Diana's fear of rejection, her desperate need to be loved, her belief that she was fundamentally unlovable. The royal family. Diana described the coldness, the judgment, the expectation to suffer in silence. The Queen barely spoke to her. Philip was harsh. Nobody offered support or kindness. Diana felt like she was drowning, and everyone was watching without throwing a lifeline. Before we continue with Diana's darkest confessions, please subscribe to the Diana Stories. This gets more painful. The dark thoughts. Diana talked about suicide, not as a dramatic threat, but as a genuine desire to escape. She described standing at the top of stairs, thinking about jumping, sitting in the car, thinking about crashing, looking at pills, thinking about swallowing them all. "I just wanted to stop," Diana told her therapist. "The pain, the pretending, everything." Diana had made actual attempts, throwing herself downstairs while pregnant, cutting her arms and legs, taking pills. These weren't cries for help. They were genuine attempts to end unbearable suffering. Her therapist took this seriously, worked with Diana on coping strategies, reasons to live. William and Harry needed their mother, but Diana's pain was deep. Therapy helped, but it couldn't fix her situation. She was still trapped in a loveless marriage, still under constant scrutiny, still feeling completely alone. The breakthrough moments. Therapy gave Diana clarity, understanding, ways to name what was happening to her. One breakthrough, realizing she wasn't crazy. The situation was crazy. Her responses were normal reactions to abnormal circumstances. Charles's constant gaslighting had made Diana doubt herself. Maybe she was too sensitive, too emotional, too difficult. Her therapist helped Diana see the truth. She wasn't the problem, the system was. Another breakthrough, understanding her bulimia as a control mechanism. Diana couldn't control Charles, couldn't control the palace, couldn't control the media, but she could control what went in and out of her body. The bulimia gave her power when she felt powerless everywhere else. Understanding didn't cure it, but it helped Diana have compassion for herself. A third breakthrough, recognizing she deserved love. Real love, not duty, not obligation, actual care and affection. Diana had internalized the message that she was unlovable. Her mother left, Charles didn't want her, the palace rejected her. Her therapist challenged this. Diana was lovable. The right person would see that. Charles's inability to love Diana was his failure, not hers. The sessions routine. Diana saw her therapist weekly during bad periods, sometimes more. She'd slip out of Kensington Palace quietly, drive herself or have a trusted driver take her. Nobody could know. If the palace found out Diana was in therapy, they'd be furious. It would confirm their belief that Diana was unstable and difficult. So Diana kept it secret. Her therapy was her lifeline. She protected it fiercely. Sessions lasted an hour. Sometimes Diana talked the whole time, other times she sat in silence, unable to find words for the pain. Her therapist never pushed, never judged, just created space for Diana to be real. Diana often cried during sessions, released emotions she had to bottle up everywhere else. She'd leave feeling lighter, seen, understood, even if nothing in her life had actually changed. What the therapist saw. Diana's therapist saw what the world didn't. Behind the glamorous princess was a deeply wounded woman. They saw her trauma, the abandonment by her mother, the rejection by Charles, the isolation in the palace. They saw her eating disorder, not as vanity, but as a desperate coping mechanism. They saw her suicidal ideation, not as manipulation, but as genuine despair. They saw her strength too. Diana kept showing up to therapy, kept trying to understand herself, kept fighting to survive. Most people would have broken completely under Diana's circumstances. She was holding on by her fingernails, but she was holding on. Diana's therapists admired her resilience, her capacity for love despite being denied love, her determination to be a good mother even while struggling herself. Charles's reaction. When Charles found out Diana was in therapy, he was dismissive.
"You're causing your own problems," he told her. "If you'd just behave properly, you'd be fine." Charles saw therapy as weakness, self-indulgence, drama. He refused to go to couples therapy with Diana, refused to acknowledge his role in her pain. "I'm not the one with problems," Charles said. "You are." This infuriated Diana. Charles was having an affair, but somehow Diana was the problem for being upset about it. The palace agreed with Charles. Diana was difficult, unstable, making trouble. Nobody acknowledged that Diana's mental health struggles were directly caused by her circumstances, by Charles's betrayal, by the royal family's cruelty. Diana was blamed for breaking under pressure that would have broken anyone. The turning point. Mid-1980s. Diana had been in therapy for a few years. She was starting to change. Therapy was giving her perspective, strength, clarity. Diana began to realize she didn't have to accept this. She didn't have to stay trapped forever. She could fight back. She could tell her story. She could leave. This terrified the palace. A compliant Diana was manageable. A Diana who understood her worth was dangerous. Diana started setting boundaries, saying no, refusing to play along with the charade. Charles hated it. The palace panicked. But Diana was done being their victim. Therapy hadn't fixed her situation, but it gave her the tools to survive it, and eventually, to escape it. The later years. By the 1990s, Diana was more open about therapy. She'd stopped hiding it. When she did the Panorama interview, she talked about her bulimia, her mental health struggles, her therapy. The public responded with overwhelming support. Diana made it okay to talk about mental health, to admit you were struggling, to seek help. This was revolutionary, especially for the royal family. You were supposed to suffer in silence, keep calm and carry on. Diana refused. She talked openly. She broke the stigma. Thousands of people wrote to Diana thanking her. They'd struggled with eating disorders, depression, suicidal thoughts. Diana made them feel less alone. Diana continued therapy through her divorce. Through the difficult years after, it remained her anchor. The legacy. Diana's openness about therapy changed the conversation around mental health in Britain. Before Diana, therapy was shameful, a sign of weakness, something to hide. Diana made it normal, necessary, a sign of strength, not weakness. She showed that even a princess could struggle, that mental health problems didn't discriminate, that asking for help was brave. Today, William and Harry both talk openly about mental health, about their own therapy, about their struggles after Diana's death. They credit their mother with breaking the stigma, making it possible for them to seek help. Diana's willingness to be vulnerable about her therapy sessions saved lives, literally. People who were suffering in silence found the courage to get help. What we'll never know. Most of what Diana told her therapists remains private, and should. Therapy notes are confidential. Diana's deepest confessions, her most vulnerable moments, stay protected. We know the broad strokes from Diana's own interviews, from the Morton biography she secretly contributed to, from friends she confided in, but the details of those therapy sessions belong to Diana. What we know is enough. Diana suffered profoundly. She sought help. She fought to survive. Conclusion. Nobody loves me. I'm only here to produce heirs. Diana said this in a therapy room, the only place she felt safe to tell the truth.
For years, Diana carried unbearable pain. Charles's betrayal, Camilla's presence, the palace's cruelty, her own childhood wounds. Therapy became her lifeline, the one place she could stop pretending, stop performing, stop being Princess Diana. In that room, she was just Diana, hurt, scared, fighting to survive. Her therapists saw what the world didn't. Behind the glamorous facade was a woman drowning, holding on by the fingernails, desperate for someone to see her pain and say, "You're not crazy. This is real. You deserve better." Therapy didn't fix Diana's situation. Charles still loved Camilla. The palace still treated her coldly. The pain didn't disappear. But therapy gave Diana tools, understanding, compassion for herself, the strength to eventually leave. And Diana gave something back,
By being open about her therapy, her bulimia, her struggles, she broke the stigma. She made it okay to admit you were hurting, to seek help. Thousands of lives were changed by Diana's courage. People got help who otherwise would have suffered in silence. That therapy room where Diana cried and confessed and struggled, it wasn't just Diana's safe space. It became a symbol that even princesses struggle, that mental health matters, that asking for help isn't weakness, it's survival, it's strength, it's Diana's legacy.
Disclaimer: while Diana's therapy sessions and mental health struggles are documented through her own interviews, the Morton biography, and various accounts from those close to her, the specific details of her private therapy conversations remain confidential, as they should. This video is based on what Diana herself chose to share publicly about her therapy experience and mental health journey. Therapy session details are presented based on Diana's own words and documented accounts, not on actual confidential therapy notes.